Welcome to Acorn to Oak with Pennie Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie. Within each acorn, there is the DNA that strives to be a mighty oak tree. All it needs to reach its potential for greatness is to be activated. You are the acorn. On this show, we will share with you the tools and guidance you need to grow into the person you are meant to be. And now your host, Pennie Quayle Pierce and co-host Matthew Donachie.
Hi, good evening. It's Pennie, and I hope you're all having a good evening or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And we're actually talking about, are you doing the job that you love this evening? And I know Matthew and both Matthew and myself have a lot to say on this subject because it's something that's very, very close to our own hearts. About, making sure that you're doing something that you love, whether that be, an office job, whether that be working for somebody else, whether that's creating a vision, whether that's running a business, or what it is. It's about, why would you waste, I don't know how many hours a day doing something that you find boring or is not inspiring you? So I just wanted to pass over to Matthew so that he gets a chance to say hi and good evening and put his 2 pennyworth in.
Hello everybody, hope you're all well. Really looking forward to the show. As Pennie said, we've got a lot to say about this as usual, and it's something that it's been very current in my life. I would say probably over the last 10 years actually. So it's really good subject. So a lot of people, I think, don't live the life that they should be. Enjoy. It's just doing a job for money, really. So yes, got a lot to cover.
That's great, thanks Matthew. And I think for me it's something that I'm very, very passionate about. I mean, I spent the first part of my life working in the National Health, working as a nurse and learning a vocation or learning how to deal with people, and it was a fantastic training ground for me to learn how to observe, learn how to communicate, and all of those wonderful things. But it got to a certain stage in my nursing career where I basically had an epiphany whilst dealing with an emergency situation, and basically asked myself that the question is this the best way that we can help people? It was an emergency situation where this poor person was going through multi-system failure, and the drugs that we were giving them at the time and the procedures that we were performing on this person at the time was probably killing them faster than the disease process. And I stood there and I just went, whoa, there has to be a better way of helping people than doing this. There has to be a better way of helping their lives, whether it's coming to a close or whether it's going through a traumatic situation and coming out the other side. I no longer want to do this in this way anymore. And that's when I retrained as a homeopath. And in retraining as a homeopath, it's put me under severe stress at the time because I was working full-time and I was at college full-time, and juggling those 4 years whilst I was retraining was, second by second, really. But from my point of view, it was worth the upheaval in my life, because what it eventually allowed me to do was to set up in private practice. It was obviously becoming a sole trader at that stage and starting to build a business, which I could help people in the way that I knew was a lot more sustainable for them. And, you know, that's when I suddenly started falling back in love with my life. And I started to realise that actually nothing is impossible, everything is possible. And probably coming out of the orthodox way of doing life to actually creating my own truth. And in doing that, and what that allowed me to do was not only take control of my personal life and my work life, but also it helped me get in touch with what was in my bottom line. And my bottom line was I was no longer willing to sell out to what other people thought was the way of doing life. And actually starting to use my own life as an experiment and going, what works and what doesn't work? What works for me? What works for other people? And listening to people and really improving my own listening skills to finding out what made other people tick as well as myself. And therefore it started to be, life started to be an amazing journey. And I know that Matthew has his own take on this, but I just wanted to explain a little bit about where I'm coming from on this. So again, handing over to Matthew, because I'm sure he's gagging at this stage to to put his penny's worth in.
I was thinking, I mean, my epiphany was sort of slightly different, and of which I would say I've had two, but a bit of my background I was always in construction, very much got in construction. That's what the family did, and it felt like the natural thing to do. I've always been quite a physical person, so enjoyed it because of the physicality more than anything, really. But was at a stage in my life where I just wasn't happy. Things within building weren't working out the way I would like them to. I would have dreams and aspirations, and they would never come to fruition. I always felt as though I would get 99% of the way there, and then it would just crash at the last minute. And basically got to a stage in life where I had enough, and that was what I would say was my first epiphany, when I was stood on a roof working with another builder, and happened to smack my thumb, and I stood up, and in that moment I just sort of couldn't decide whether to throw the hammer off the roof or myself. And then sort of in that second you have that thought, you think, hang on a minute, something's got to change here. And I said, look, I can't live like this anymore. I'm just so miserable. And the other builder, Dan Hall, sort of looked at me and just sort of said, are you sure? Would you do anything? And I thought, cool, he's got some balls fronting me when you feel like that. But actually it was what I needed to hear, because it was like, yeah, actually I would do anything. I don't care what it is. You show me what to do and I'll do it. I'm willing to take the step to change my life, whatever it takes. And that's the moment that Dan Hall put me in contact with Pennie. So that's when my life took a complete flip from being, I was quite science-based, so I could believe in certain things, but if they weren't proven scientifically, I didn't necessarily believe them. I was living in a world of delusion and pain, and through meeting Pennie and starting doing the work, I was just opened up to actually how life can be, and a lot of sort of the reason I was staying in living the bad life was not only just because I'd had bad experiences, but actually my own bad behaviour. So ego was out of control. I felt as though I was sort of entitled to a lifestyle. I was entitled to certain things, and I should just be provided with these, and it's all right for everybody else. And you start doing the work, and this is what I love most about Pennie, is just like the expertise you have is mind-blowing and opening my world in so many ways and giving me clarity on who I am, where to go, what makes me tick, because there was just so much that was covered up by emotional trauma that I didn't really know who Matthew was anymore. It was almost like living somebody else's life, because you feel as though you're a good person, but you may not be living a good life. And that's when you can go into sort of self-destruct mode almost, and that's very much where I was when I met Pennie. But doing the work and realising that actually we have a choice whether we buy into the world we see in front of us or actually how it really works. Because I know very much children struggle when they're growing up, as they're told that life's all good and everything's great, and then they hit the big bad world at 18 and think, well, nobody told us it was this hard. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying, when I started doing the work with Pennie, it really made me realise how things work, and every action we take has a reaction, and often we don't even realise we can be engaging with ego, and we wonder why we get negative experiences flying at us. And through doing the work, discovering breath work for me it totally transformed my life. I wouldn't be talking on the radio now if I hadn't met Pennie and used Breath for Life breath work. It's that powerful. Saved my life and will save many, many others. And through doing that process, I literally could not believe that there was something out there that is so good and so effective for dealing with emotional traumas, physical pathologies connected to emotional traumas, which more often than not, most physical pathologies are caused by an emotional disease of the body. So when I discovered that, it was kind of like it just something clicked inside, and that's when I knew it's like, right, I want to train in this and I want to get it out there. And that's when I would say in my life I found true passion for what I would like to make my career, because although I loved building and it was a laugh, this is something totally different. And when you're living in your heart and doing the work you love, there is no greater feeling for me. And I think that's what we're aiming to try and help some of you get closer to, because it doesn't matter what line of work you're in, you don't have to retrain in something else like I have, but it's just looking at what really gets you going. When do you start fizzing with excitement? When are you singing and laughing and smiling on the way to somewhere? Because very much if you look at most people in traffic on the way to work in this country, there's not a smile between 1,000 people, and that's quite sad when you think that we're actually all going round a hamster wheel almost, and it's kind of like Groundhog Day. But it's not even a good day. It's like 5 days of, work, so you can have 2 days off and enjoy it with your family, and actually everybody can flip that around. And everybody has different dreams and aspirations. And I've met sort of hotel staff or cleaners and people that sort of are doing sort of low-paid jobs, but they're so happy just because they love what they do. And it's not about the job that they're doing, the cleaning, it's about serving people. And if you enjoy serving people in that way, then you'll get just as much of a buzz doing any job. It doesn't matter what job you're doing, it's about what happiness it's bringing you.
Yeah. I think it's so true. You know, we tend to think that we need some awe-inspiring job, or we need to be making a shed load of money, or, you know, again, we get, you know, I'm this age, so this is what should be happening in my life right now. And, you know, whether that be marriage or children or a certain amount figure that you're meant to be earning, or driving a certain car or living in a certain house. And we forget, actually, you know, it's about the inner part of ourselves, our inner heart and our inner feelings of self-worth and authenticity. And if we can, you know, be content with what we have. I'm just thinking about a lass that I was working with, and in fact also I know Matthew's worked with her also, and she was a nurse, so obviously it's very much my own background. And she was having problems with self-worth and not knowing where she was going, and we had some interaction. And obviously, as I said, she's coming from the background that I came from, which was nursing. And I just gave her a couple of pointers and helped her discover within herself where she would like to go and what she would like to create. And during some coaching, basically said to her, well, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about, nursing is such a big field. You know, there's many specialities within nursing. Mine was cardiothoracic intensive care nursing. Hers was not. Hers was something completely different. But it's also looking at how can you help your colleagues have a better day? How can you serve your colleagues and look at what is going on in their days and what are the common complaints and what are the common issues that you all hold together? And she came up with a whole package of things that she would like to see change within her own workplace. And she started to talk to the senior nurses, and she started to look at different things. And during this process got a promotion, went for a promotion and got a promotion, and started to bring in some of the debriefing things that she wanted to look at, and how nurses, you know, if you don't watch out, will hold on to different traumas and things that are happening on the ward-based scenario, and not process your own emotions and not put yourselves first and not actually work through the issues that are rampant in the national health in the UK right here, right now. And what she found was, as she changed that, her whole life changed. And she became passionate about going to work, which she hadn't been for, you know, a couple of years. And it totally and utterly infused her, you know, and inspired her. She inspired herself, which is really important. So we're coming up for a break now. So we'll see you on the other side.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, we know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Hi, so we're back, and I just wanted to continue on just talking about one other person who I've worked with in the past when basically he was let go from a job, and I won't go into the reasons why, but he was actually let go and came to me for an emergency coaching session and just went, I've been let go, I've been in sales most of my life, I don't know what else I can do. So I sat him down at the kitchen table and just basically said, write a list of things that you enjoy. And I left him for a little while. He wrote down quite a few different things. And I went back to him and just basically said, so tell me about them. And he started talking about what he enjoyed about sales and marketing and various other bits and pieces. And I said, well, you know, the point being here is you have messed up in your last job. They've let you go. So I think it's probably time for a change. And he just basically said, yeah, that's true. And I said, so what else do you enjoy doing? And he said, well, I enjoy DIY. And I said, oh, that's great, because I could do with a couple of jobs done around my place. Would you be open to doing some work for me? And he said, yes, that would be good. So he could get a recommendation. So then I recommended him to a few friends. And he got a bit more work from that and what he obviously enjoyed and loved doing. And we then sat down later that evening and just basically came up with a flyer for him to go door to door with. And from that, he has built a huge building business. And not only does he do DIY, he does all sorts of different stuff. And he has built a very successful business, which he is very, very passionate about. But the most important thing for me, the point to get across, was because he came down to the wire and actually said, what do I enjoy doing? And what he enjoyed doing was fixing things and making sure something was a lot better after he had finished the job than before he started it. And again, I just want to hand back over to Matthew, because I know obviously, and it wasn't Matthew, by the way. I'm talking about someone totally separate who's in the building trade now. But it's really quite interesting when you actually pick a passion and you're working at something that you love to work in. It carries you through even the dull days. And there are going to be some dull days where things are throwing up a few challenges that maybe you need to look at. And if you're passionate about what you do, then the passion is going to help you through any dull day. So handing back to Matthew so Matthew can put his penny's worth in again.
Yeah, I find before I was cooking on gas and I was doing what I love doing, those moments were huge waves of drama and chaos. Whereas when you're doing what you love and an interesting situation comes up, it's almost like being in a soap sort of scene. Because you're loving what you do and you're quite calm and nothing really phases you, these interesting situations become really entertaining in a good way, whereas before they'd be sort of almost consuming. So, but what I wanted to make my next point around is very much, I love the way you put it across when you just simplify it and ask someone what do you love doing, because generally if you ask a person sort of what are you good at, that's very different from what they love doing. And if you have a passion for something, it doesn't matter whether you necessarily have the ultimate skill you need to do that job, because there's always other people out there that are good at doing the jobs you're not good at. But if you've got a passion to drive something forwards, even if you don't have the knowledge or any idea around specific subjects like marketing or whatever it is, there's always other people out there to help you. And one of my biggest things, and I tell you what, if Penny had £1 for every time I tried to buy into a story of fear, and it would be as simple as Penny would ask me, so what do you think about doing that? Almost like the radio show at first. It was kind of like, yeah, I'd like to do that, but will I be any good at it? Or what if I mess up? Am I going to come across well? And it's just fear. All these silly little fears, irrational fears of the mind that come up. And I think that's paramount, because it's one of the biggest reasons that people stay in the same job and keep doing the same thing, because we tell ourselves stories.
Don't rock the boat.
Very much, especially, and I totally get it, when you're in a family unit and you're perhaps and I'm just going to reference it because I can only think about myself in this situation, but if I was a guy with a family and I was doing a job, the amount of fear that would come up if you thought to follow your dream, to leave a secure job that was supporting your family and paying your mortgage and putting food in your mouths, to take the leap or even think about taking the leap brings up so much fear for people. And it did for me, when it was kind of like, well, can I actually take this leap of faith in changing my life, and hope it all works out? And I highly recommend you take the leap yourself, because some of it is done on faith, and until you see the results, you're not sure. I was sceptical, but my God, it works. And when you see the change, you realise that, I mean, the fear I had around money, it was like, well, what if I'm not bringing in X amount each month? And if you take the leap and have faith, the universe provides. And I think the first time this happened, and I thought, well, and it could be anything. It could be a training course, could be starting a business, whatever it is to better yourself. It's X amount of money to do the course. I'm never going to be able to afford it. And then 2 days later, I get a phone call out the blue, and someone would have a building job for the exact amount of money that I needed extra that month. And I literally could not believe it. And so the big fears for me was I couldn't afford to do the training, I wouldn't be able to support myself while I'm doing it. And every single time I've taken the leap and had faith, it's come in. And fear is the only thing that stops you. And had Penny have not been there to constantly remind me, which I'm extremely grateful for, it probably would have taken me a bit longer. And it's like we've said before, that's why finding the right coach is really important. Not only someone that can support and guide you, that has the knowledge, pretty much if they've been there, they've done it, so they can show you how to do it, but it's the support that goes with it, and someone that's going to hold you accountable, because that's, again, something that's been really helpful with the training, because it's real easy to talk the talk. It's not so easy to walk the walk, and we all trip and we all fall, and it's good to have someone that will gracefully help you up and then tell you to crack on, sort of thing. And I think that's been one of those most valuable things, because at those times when things, like Penny was saying, you have interesting situations, doubt can come in. And again, doubt is fear. It's the unknown. And it's just how you respond to it that's important. We see fear as false evidence appearing real, because in that moment, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're planning on creating an empire or doing a bungee jump, in that moment it's kind of like, oh, well, the rope could snap. Well, that's an irrational thought. It's a 1 in 100 million chance, but there's that fear there. And if you buy into it, you wouldn't get the great experiences. So very much I think that's what stops most people, is the fear of taking that first step. But in taking the first step, when you see the results, it drove me to sort of go harder, because I realised, well, the universe has got my back here, and you realise it's meant to be. So whether you do have to retrain, whether whatever it is you're planning on doing, whether it's sort of there's business loans involved to start your company, depending on what company you want to start, don't buy into the fear that you can't, because you can. Everybody can. And I think it stops us being our true selves. Very much that's what's helped the transition for me, and I think that makes it so much easier is that I'm doing what I love. So the passion comes naturally. You don't have to try. Things don't seem like an effort. And if things are hard and everything seems tough, and it just seems like you're putting all the effort in and getting nothing out, I would seriously look at what you're doing and if it is your passion. Because when your passion's involved, nothing stops you, and everything is just real easy. It is just like cooking on gas, like living on that cloud nine. And we're all able to have this experience. It's just whether we choose to. And that was probably one of the biggest things for me, is realising that actually all my choices were making my life play out the way it was, and all I had to do was choose a different way. There was some footwork to put in and some emotional work, but hey, when you get these results, it'd be worth tenfold. So
I think it's really important to, as I said, just to, if you are thinking of changing your job, or you're not enjoying your job right here, right now, and you want to do something different, it is initially just sitting down and doing what I would call a self-audit. And you're just sitting down and going, okay, so I'm not enjoying what I'm doing right here, right now. So why am I still here? Why am I still creating or going to the same job that actually makes me unhappy, or the situations, without blaming anybody else? It's just looking at it, obviously, I'm not an advocate for going out and shooting your boss and saying it's all my boss's fault, and if he left then I would be having a whale of a time, or if she left I'd be having a whale of a time. It's looking at it and just going, okay, so if you're feeling blocked, or if you're feeling like you're stagnating, or you're not being heard, or you're not being valued, what is that actually telling you? Are you in the right place? And if you find that you are in the right place, but you just want to go, create something slightly bigger for yourself, then approach the right people to see if that is in their minds also. And if it's not, and you feel it's time to leave, then I'm not an advocate for just walking, telling people to foxtrot Oscar and walk out the door. I'm talking about doing it with having a realistic plan of, yes, I only want to be in this job for another 3 months or whatever it is. I need to be looking at other jobs or other opportunities, or maybe getting my CV out there, and looking at what it is that you could change, which will take you into a situation that you're going to enjoy more. And it may take a series of moves. That may be the first move, and then you get some in-house training with your next job or whatever it is, and you can then shift over and move into something else. Maybe in the same company, but maybe not in the same company. It may mean that you need to leave. And these are the situations when we make a realization that we want to live authentically now. We want to live with our heart center open, and we want to either make a difference or have an impact or have a purpose or get in touch with that passion. It's looking at it and taking the steps. And it may not all happen overnight. It may need a strategic plan to put into place, which is going to take you 6 months. But quite frankly, even if it takes you 6 months to change, isn't it better than spending another 10 years in a job that you find boring or you hate? And it's looking at it and going, okay, so what can I do here? And it may be that you invest in some coaching, or you invest in having a, like we had at school, career day or whatever, or go and try out things. Or you may decide that you want to volunteer in a certain sector for a while, just so that you can try it out. And some of these things are really important to do. It's a calculated leap, okay? And, yes, the mad ones of us will take an absolute leap of faith. But that may not suit your personality. That may not suit who you are. And I would say to you, look at, asking your friends, asking your family, what do you think would be good here? And, I've coached many different people in my life, and, that people have gone on to write bestsellers, people have gone on to build businesses, people have had very successful private practices. Somebody is actually gone on and is now a stage actress and all sorts of different things, because all they needed to do was just go, okay, so what do I enjoy doing? What makes me passionate? What do I see myself doing? And if I could do something and get paid for it, what would that be? And again, another case comes up into my mind of somebody who is a fantastic artist, really, really wonderful artist, and is very, very creative, and she inspires me with her work. And she may not become a famous artist, she may not be world renowned, but what she loves to do is help other people enjoy the art. So what she is she's a trained teacher and coach herself, and she's now starting to coach people on using art and using things in their life so they can get in touch with their creative selves. And I look at that and I just go, what a wonderful result and what a wonderful story. And we're going to hear the music, so we're just about to take another break, and we'll see you on the other side.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of Om Times Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On. My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
We are talking about your life. Ever wonder, is this as good as it gets? No, it could be so much better. At Acorn to Oak, we know you are seeking more happiness, joy, unconditional love, financial freedom, passion, and purpose. Find your unique mojo and live an extraordinary life. Want to know more? Contact us at our website, acorntooak.org.uk.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
So we're back, and we've been talking about, does your job make you passionate? Are you in a job that is going to help you and sustain you and allow you to get in touch with the authentic part of yourself? And obviously I've been talking about a couple of different case histories which sort of bring up that point of realizing that we have so much more to offer than a small way of living. And I just wanted to hand back to Matthew and allow him to come back into the conversation, because I seem to be chatting a lot, but then that's what makes me passionate.
Honestly, you've just got to smile, because when you do something you're passionate about, you just get carried away and you can talk for hours and you just energized. And that's the other thing I love about the job as well, is a lot of people talk about sort of doing sort of therapy work or energy work, that they're sort of almost taking on a burden, and it's harder for people that do energy work and emotional work to handle things. And to me that doesn't make sense. That sort of means that they're not doing the work that they're doing, sort of thing, because to me I just feel so energized doing the work. And you can literally talk, I could talk for hours about the subject. And what I've discovered even early on in running my clinic days was the testimonials and the way that when you work with someone for a period of time, usually sort of 6 months to a year, and then you get them into a foundation course, but the amazing changes that you see people go through, and it really is just a pleasure to be in that position. And when I first met Pennie, I never would have believed that I could be doing the work that I'm doing now, the work that Pennie does, working sort of with Pennie and alongside Pennie. It really is a dream come true, and I would have never dreamt that I was capable of doing that. I just didn't think I was that type of person, and that's the key. I didn't think I was that kind of person. I probably always felt as though that's who I should be. But we're so used to being in our heads and thinking about things the whole time, we don't engage with the feeling. And you'll hear us say it many times. The feeling is what's important, because that's what your natural state should be, is the joy and the passion and the happiness. And sometimes it can be a very, just like Penny would say, like a course adjustment. So the girl that was in nursing, she had obviously joined nursing because she was passionate, but sometimes we get into a job and we can sort of lose our passion. It almost becomes a grind. And sometimes it can just be about realising, actually, what are your aspirations? How do you think you could change this, not just for yourself but for others, and reigniting that passion. And then off they go again, and you see them flying down the track, and it's just a pleasure to watch. And I just wish more people would do it. I remember working with Penny when we started working with archetypes, and Penny brought up the prostitute archetype. And I thought, when the word is first used, I thought, well, I'm not a prostitute in my life. No, I wouldn't do that. But it's what it means, not what the word is. And it's, where are you selling out? Where are you? And for me, it was money. I didn't feel as though I was being paid enough for the job I was doing. My decision was, I left the job and get a job where I'm being paid what I'm worth. However, before I started doing the work, the amount of times I would think I'd like to leave my job, and you perhaps go and talk to the boss and say, I'd like to leave, and they'll offer you more money. Or say, well, I tell you what, how about you work an hour less each day, because then you're earning the same money, but you get more time with your family. And you go, yeah, okay. Whereas actually the decision you made was to leave the job because you're really not happy, regardless of the money, but they throw a little bit more at you, and we sell out. And I did that in so many situations in my life where you don't sort of respect yourself enough. It's like you almost respect the person in front of you more than you do yourself, and you sell out. And I think it's rife at the moment, and it's certainly something, until I was aware of, and I did the training and learnt about all these things, that you can make the changes. And as I said earlier, like anybody can do it. Like, don't think for a second that there's anything special about us. We're just people that didn't give up, and you can do the same. We all have choice and free will, and I think it makes the difference between people who are constantly moving forwards and then other people you'll see in your life that are just doing the same thing. You see them 10 years later, and they're exactly the same. Whereas if I look at where I was 10 years ago and where I am now, it's completely unrecognisable. And I would say it's true with everybody that comes into contact with Acorn to Oak, especially that I've witnessed. It is really quite incredible when you put these changes in place. Everything flips round.
Yeah, I think it's really important to say here is some, these changes don't need to come in one great big wallop and feel like a tidal wave. And it's little steps, little things. I put a post up earlier on Facebook, and basically it said, modern man is in slavery to the lower ego self, which is unhelpful for our own personal evolution. It's taking care to know yourself authentically without boundaries.
Love it.
And, what I mean by that is that, we tend to have these boundaries put around us because of the way that we've been enculturated, or i.e. the way we've been brought up. And these voices in our head say, no, you can't do that because that's asking for too much. Or hang on a minute, if I ask my boss for a rise, he's going to think I'm greedy. Well, who cares whether he thinks you're greedy or not? It's whether you genuinely need or feel that you're due for a raise. I know that I'm talking about the prostitute archetype. It made me smile because there was a period in my life when just before I gave up nursing, where the prostitute archetype used to take me down to the director of the hospital's office with alarming regularity to basically show that I was not happy with the way that I felt that the lack of respect for the amount of work that I was doing. So I'd walk into his office and basically say, that's right, that's it, here's my resignation, take that. I don't give a rat's ass, and by the way, I'm not coming back on Monday. And he just looked at me and go, and offer me another £5,000 a year. And I go, well, in that case, I'll stay, and walk out. And this happened 3 times. 3 times I did it. And 3 times I got a £5,000 raise per year. And it happened over a period of a year. And basically, when I suddenly realised, actually, he would give me what I wanted. And that was the prostitute archetype, whereas I was selling out each time because I was training. It was in the period where I was training as a homeopath. And I thought the money would come in helpful as a buffer when I decided to jump trains. But it was not a good scenario. And in fact, I needed to leave. So the universe showed me a totally different way of leaving. And I left pretty quickly after that year of umming and ahhing, and it was purely, as Matthew was saying, it was the fear of, if I take this leap from a very secure job, which was obviously getting more and more well paid as I went on, what's it going to look like when I jump off this train and decide to become a sole trader? And I think that was the thing for me. And I eventually got the courage together. And of course, where does your courage live? It lives in your heart. And once I got the courage together to actually realise that I could take care of myself in any situation, and I didn't need to prostitute myself out to a boss or a job that I was no longer suited for. So that's just my take on the prostitute archetype. But the prostitute archetype is basically literally there to show us that we need to be faithful to self. They are the guardian of faith within our lives. And it's just showing you that when that archetype is up, there is some part of you that is not having faith in self. So yeah, it's interesting work. When maybe we need to do a radio show at some stage on archetypes, because the archetypes are fascinating, and it's very much based in Jungian, the Jungian world. And as Jung said, the way to become enlightened is not to imagine figures of light, but to own your own shadow. And it is, some of the work that needs to be done if you're finding that you're not living the life of your dreams, or living a life that is running smoothly and graceful, is shadow work, because it's the shadow which is interesting. And it's just not trying to get rid of the shadow, but actually understanding what the richness the shadow brings. Because if you didn't have shadow, then you wouldn't have light. So it's the duality, and in Hindu terms, it's Maya. It's the delusion that we live in.
Yeah.
And it's getting to. Yeah. Sorry, Matthew. Carry on.
Sorry. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that fall into that delusion, that Maya. If you ask somebody sort of what is preventing you from living your perfect life. And a lot of people will say, well, the government's making us work to provide for this and that. It's like we always make it that we're being controlled. But actually, when you rein it in and you listen to what that person's telling you, and then you give it back to them, the only person that is making you work and making you suffer and making your job hard and making things difficult is yourself. Nobody can control you. The only person that can control you is yourself. And that was a hard one for me to swallow, because I thought, well, actually, no, that's totally wrong. But actually, when I saw the results in my own life, I realised the only people that hold us back are ourselves. And if we think that the government's controlling us, we'll allow ourselves to be controlled. So don't let that in.
Don't let that happen. Anyway, it's been great to talk to you this evening. We hope you have a great week, and we'll speak to you next week. Take care. Brilliant. And enjoy yourselves.